You know, first off, what a high school basketball game, and incredible tribute to Summit Christian Academy. They were phenomenal, and they're the exact type of team that would have given us fits in November and December. Very well coached, senior point guard who controlled the pace of the game, shooters around them, just kept moving offensively, kept cutting. They don't take bad shots. They rarely turn it over, and that's the type of team that would have given us fits in November and December. And the thing about this group is they've grown so much, and I think they've improved as much as any team I've ever coached. And I mentioned it, but we were sitting there at 4-3 in December, and the most overrated team in the state by far. I didn't know if we had a chance of doing this, but they got a heck of a lot tougher. They got a heck of a lot more together. Started to practice more consistently, more competitively. And their trust just grew, right? And and early in the season, if you made a run on us, there was a lot of splintering, a lot of finger pointing, and a lot of come back down and have a 0-1 pass possession. I got to do it myself, and it was across the board. And I just think their trust in each other grew throughout the season. And obviously, played a challenging schedule, faced a lot of adversity, but they grew from it, right? They grew from it. And so when I think of this group, obviously there's a lot of things that come to mind, but just the growth they showed from November 1st to March 20th is what I'm most proud of. In today's game, like I said, I thought they had a great game plan coming in. Didn't make anything easy on us. Really struggled to find a rhythm offensively early. We talk about time of possession at times, and you can't get dominated in time of possession and find a rhythm offensively. We started to do a better job of that in the second, third, fourth quarters, found a rhythm. Obviously, Scotty got it going in the second half. I thought Quincy hit some big-time shots down the stretch, and then to a man, we knocked down free throws in the fourth quarter. And, we emphasize the fourth quarter in practice every single day, and those guys, we said before the game, it's going to be a war, one possession at a time, and you're going to have to win the last 4 minutes, and they certainly did.
Quincy, I got to ask about those big threes. I mean, when you got them, were you in rhythm? Did you just know, hey, it's going in?
It's what I've been working on all year. These type of shots that I practice in practice, after practice, and before practice. Game shots every single day, so I trusted myself, trusted my teammates.
You kind of held your hand there a little bit and just kind of watched it. Were you just kind of just admiring your shot a little bit?
Literally, the moment, yes, sir. I'm not following through. That's what they tell me every day.
Coach, they were blitzing the ball screens with Scotty. They were trying to deny him the ball. He was held to 11 in the first half. What kind of adjustments do you make to kind of get him going there in the second half?
Man, held to 11. I wish I was good enough that I scored double digits and it was held to. You're right, but obviously I had some success jumping ball screens in the first half. Tried to be more particular about who we ball screened with in the second half, and also just ball screened less. You're trying to ball screen to create an advantage. There's a lot of times when 11 doesn't need any help creating an advantage, and it's more about the spacing after he gets the advantage. I thought he did a better job in the second half of attacking under control. He was off 1 foot a little bit too much in the first half. He started playing off 2 foot, got to some pivots, started to cut and hit shooters off of it, and it wasn't as out of control. 4 for them. Michael Thomas is one of the best shot blockers in the state, and we showed him clip after clip of guys coming in out of control off 1 foot and him erasing it. And I thought, it took a while for it to click for our guys, but thought it did in the second half, and we were a lot more successful in the paint. Carl said, screw that plan, and shot one over the top of him, hooking, falling out of bounds, and made a big-time shot. But if you're going to win one like this, you got to have big-time players making big-time plays. And that's exactly what 11 did, 2 did, 13 did, 10 did, 30 did. You can keep going down the board. Yesterday I got asked about, was I surprised by Eddie Peplow? And I said, no, if you're going to make a run like this, you've got to have guys step up. In the first half tonight, Jackson Tabash, when we couldn't find a rhythm, came in, gives us 5 huge points off the bench. I thought that was huge for helping us settle down in the game. And thought JT came up clutch early for us tonight.
Scotty, you kind of finished the game on one leg. I mean, you took some hard fouls. I could see you hobbling out there. Like, what were you kind of trying to do just to get through that game, like the last half or quarter?
We always talk about TTW. If you want to win, you got to be the toughest team at all times, and we did that tonight.
And lastly, earlier today you got named Gatorade Player of the Year. How does that feel?
It feels good, but more importantly, I wanted to be a state champion before anything. So,
what did we see tonight? This week, like 30, yesterday 29. Describe your 2 days here.
It's just like Coach said, the guys, it starts in practice. You know, with black team, they work us every day, so they prepare me for these moments every day in practice, and that's how I get.
Miles, you're just a freshman. They immediately foul you to start sending you guys to the line. Did you get nervous at all that they targeted you to get to that line?
No, I didn't really get nervous because at the start of the season, I wasn't really hitting my free throws, and I just got in the gym, was working on it all the time, and now they're falling now, so it was like no pressure at all.
So there's no butterflies in your stomach when you step to the line?
And what is it? Last year, I think district semis, maybe beaten by Vianney. What was the ingredient this year to get you to sitting here holding that trophy?
I feel like that's a 13 question. I feel like that's a 13 question.
The key this year, in my opinion, is just everybody playing as a team. And last year, it was more of a, how do I describe it? It wasn't as together as this year. Yeah, the trust was not there to make a run like we were able to this year. So, yeah.
Coach, just Scotty actually mentioned this in the last press conference yesterday that you guys just seemed to really click after your loss to Ladue. I mean, you didn't lose the rest of the season, so just what kind of went into the team of just kind of finally, kind of going on a winning streak and just kind of like, finding a lot of momentum?
That's an interesting question because, I'd like to tell you that we went in the locker room that night and I gave a really great speech and it just touched their hearts and, it changed everything. But I go back to, like I said, December, and I thought, Marquette upsets us in the Coaches vs. Cancer, and I say upset, they're a great team. But it wasn't, that they beat us, it was that they beat us by double digits, and when they made their run, we folded. And we come back the next night, we beat Westminster, and we went into film session, we just put up clips, not a whole lot of X's and O's, and just looked at our huddles on dead balls and things like that, and how we splintered against Marquette. And against Westminster, it wasn't where it needed to be, but it was better. We talk about getting touches after turnovers. Marquette, it was, I thought you were doing this, et cetera. Against Westminster, it was like, it wasn't like this where it needs to be, and like, hey, I got you, man. Hey, I thought you were going back door. All right, let's move on. Hey, next play, we need to stop here. It wasn't where it needed to be. It was more like ET, but it was better. And we talked about how, that was the difference in the game. It was the difference between Marquette running us out of the gym and beating a really, really good team in Westminster. And that's kind of the togetherness, trust, toughness things, responding to adversity. And like you said, the Ladue loss was several months after the Marquette one, but practices got more consistent. Like Scotty said, our black group is phenomenal. And when Tabash lights it up from three, or Peter, or Isaiah Salmon is crashing like a banshee from the three-point line to get offensive rebounds, when they went on running us in practice, we responded, and we would lose a drill, but we'd lose a drill 8-6 instead of 10-2, and there's a big difference there. So I think after the Ladue game, which obviously they're a really good team and a really good program, I think our guys looked ourselves in the mirror and said, somebody might beat us, but they're going to have to beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves. And I think, that's the mindset we had to have to be able to go into Vianney, to go into Sykeston. Right? They had a great crowd here tonight. They're making big-time plays down the stretch. To be able to respond to that adversity, that's the type of mindset we had to have, and we got there. We weren't there, and we got there. That's what I'm most proud of.
Brady or any of the seniors, what's it mean to close out your high school basketball career with a title?
It was really special for me because I just remember my freshman year, Webster won the title, and I remember coming to state as a fan. I wasn't on the roster. I dressed 2 games that year, and but I didn't get a ring because I wasn't on the roster for state run. So like after that, I just got in the gym every day. It was my main goal just to get myself a ring. And it was very emotional, very touching to get one this year.
And how did you, as a player and as a senior, you guys had a lot of expectations going into the season, people talking about Scotty and Miles and some of the other guys you returned, and just how do you think as players you guys were able to handle those expectations earlier on in the season, just later on, finishing as state champions?
I think we do a good job at just blocking out everything, all the expectations, all the rankings, everything like that, and just focusing on ourselves every day in practice, staying together, and that's really all what it boils down to.
Just 2 things to add on that. there's a lot of legends in this program. Drew Hamlin playing the Final Four his senior year on one ankle. What these guys think is a punishment, Ray drill, the condition drill. It wasn't a punishment. Rayshawn Simmons just invented it to get in shape, and you can go on down the line. Drew Hamlin, Breakfast Club, Matt Enright, just being Matt Enright. But these two captains are going to add to that. Carl Saturday at Sykeston was sick as a dog, and all he had to do while he was sick as a dog is go out and guard Tristan Wiggins, who's a phenomenal player, on a team that's won 27 games, hasn't lost at home, and he came out and gave us 30 minutes on one lung, and just was just an absolute warrior. The other one I think of with Brady is his sophomore year. We weren't great, and he was in and out of the rotation, and we didn't have a Vertimax at the time. And he knew he needed to work on his agility, and he made his own in the weight room. He's got bands. We call it the Brady Max. There's the Drew ankle game, there's the Carl sick game at Sykeston, and the Brady Max, and those stories are going to get told to Webster kids for a long time. The only other thing I got, you talk about rankings and et cetera, and I lose track of Scotty's. It's 4.5 stars, 3 marshmallows, and 2 balloons. Because recruiting rankings and sugary cereal, they're both kind of artificial. But the conversation with him, I think, needs to start with winner, because he was able to block out all that, not focus about it, not care about it, and focus on the most important thing, which was winning. And so, if you're going to describe 11, that would be the first word that I would start with, is winner.
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Yeah.